Environmental Advocates, Kate Kurera.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chairwoman. Good evening, all. On behalf of Environmental Advocates NY, it's a pleasure to provide you some brief remarks and highlights from our written testimony. I'll start by saying that a lot of our organizational priorities were covered in the first part of the day that focused on clean energy and climate spending. Funding implementation for the climate law remains one of our utmost priorities, and I can't overstate the importance of getting New York on a path quickly to generate funds to sustain our commitments to New Yorkers, in particular environmental justice and disadvantaged communities. So in light of the lack of dedicated funding that's in the executive budget, it's particularly disappointing to see the continued raids or the continued diversion of RGGI funds to the general fund. President Harris earlier today mentioned she felt this diversion was in alignment with the CLCPA because the funds go to a solar energy tax credit. But I'm 100% sure that the executive budget calls for diverting those funds just to the general fund. So we really urge the legislature to reject that transfer once and for all, and have those funds be used for their intended purpose. Getting to some of the other environmental aspects of the executive budgets, many of which we are very happy to see. We strongly support the historic increase in the Environmental Protection Fund, the increase in the Environmental Bond Act, as well as the staffing at DEP, all critically important for our environment and New Yorkers. We do encourage that the unallocated portions of the Bond Act go to be directed to support school bus electrification in disadvantaged communities, an area we've identified as needing more support. We also support the executive's proposal for including the $500 million in the Clean Water Infrastructure Act, but our data suggests that a lot more money is needed, and we would there support of the $1 billion for the clean water infrastructure funding. We also support the executive's proposal to appropriate $120 million to the low-income household water assistance program. We know we need more than this. The amount of the millions of dollars in water and wastewater arrears is staggering, and we urge the legislature to allocate an additional $280 million from pandemic recovery funds. Lastly, but very importantly, and it's been discussed in the last panel, and I have a lot of opinions on this, but I'll be brief in terms of we're very encouraged to see an extended producer responsibility bill put forth by the governor. This is a very important piece to addressing our solid waste crisis, but we will echo a lot of the comments we've heard earlier and some concerns that having a meaningful EPR program and to see these systemic changes to produce less waste, hold producers responsible, make recycling easily and accessible for households, as well as provide municipal financing, it requires that we take all of these things into account and think about them collectively to achieve these goals. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.